We'll be right back. books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, and Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fist. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. But she said, where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss. Just something I can turn to, somebody I can kiss. I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. I want something just like this. I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, the testaments they told, the moon and its eclipse, and Superman unrolls a suit before he lived. But I'm not the kind of person that it fits. She said, where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss. Just something I can turn to, somebody I can miss. I want something just like this. I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. Where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss. Just something I can turn to, somebody I can kiss. I want something just like this.
and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to 2017 CPX Forum on Innovations and Startups. This morning's program will begin here in about 5 minutes. Please be seated. 在场所有贵宾，我们今天早上的议程将要在5分钟后准时开始。再次提醒您，我们今天早上的议程将要在5分钟后准时开始。我们请在场的所有贵宾、所有媒体朋友们能够尽速的入席就座，谢谢。
I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fist. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. But she said, where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss. Just something I can turn to, somebody I can kiss. I want something just like this. Do-do-do, do-do-do. Oh, I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. I want something just like this. I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, the testaments they told, the moon and its eclipse, and Superman unrolls a suit before he lived. But I'm not the kind of person that it fits. She said, where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss. Just something I can turn to, somebody I can miss. I want something just like this. I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. Where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss. Just something I can turn to, somebody I can kiss. I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to CPX Forum on Innovations and Startups. This morning's program features a stellar lineup of speakers from iiiNNO, Lightyear, as well as Indiegogo. And the panel discussion will feature Epoch Foundation, Lucid, and Windstrom Corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, to kickstart this morning's program, I would like to invite the host of Computex and the host of all the conferences, Mr. Walter Ye, President and CEO of Tetra, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Let us put our hands together and give a very warm welcome to Mr. Walter Ye.
Honorable speakers, Jerry Sutherland, representative of Finland, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. 大家早安。On behalf of Tetra, the organizer of Computex CPX conference, let me welcome all of you for joining today's session on innovations and startups. We are very grateful to the industry leaders for supporting this event. Over the past 37 years, Computex has grown with the global ICT industry. Since last year, Computex has repositioned to building global technology ecosystems, focusing on 5 things: AI and robotics, innovation and startups, IoT application, business solution, and gaming and VR. To echo the global industry trends and the main theme of the show, 3 new exhibits are established. Smart Tech is for IoT applications. iiNNO is exclusively for innovative startups. Gaming and VR is the ultimate gaming platforms for coolest high-performance gaming products. And iiNNO for startup will end today. So please take your time to visit the show if you didn't visit the iiNNO yet. And Computex this year hosts 1,600 exhibitors from 26 countries, and the iiNNO hosts 272 companies, startups from over 23 countries. And we expect over 40,000 visitors to Computex, international visitors. Computex aims to build a global technology ecosystems by uniting the power of the leaders, industry leaders, and lead the world's ICT industry to the next stage. According to Gartner, 50% of IoT solutions were originated in startups that are less than 3 years. That is one amazing fact to know. To comply with the global startup trend, Taiwan government launched Asia Silicon Valley Development Plan to build a complete IoT supply chain and to optimize Taiwan's industry and entrepreneurship ecosystem. Today, we are honored to have invited 7 speakers to talk about innovations and startups. David Guo, co-founder of iiNNO. Peter Westerbecker, co-founder of Lightmeer. Peter is also the inventor of Angry Bird. He is so popular for the last few days in Taiwan. A lot of media coverage of Angry Bird, of Peter, and how Finland developed their startup, their innovations. We learn a lot from him. That is another Silicon Valley in Europe. So that is where Taiwan can learn and cooperate with Finland. And also, we have Ben Bateman, Senior Director of Strategic Program, Indiegogo. And Lucas Wang, CEO of Hardware Track. Jocelyn Chow, President of Epoch Foundation. Han Jin, co-founder and CEO of Lucid. And Eric Wu, Senior Special Assistant of Chairman for Winstone Corporation. Before I give the floor to Mr. David Guo, I wish you all have very informative morning. And also, I would like to express my great appreciation to the speakers today for your great contribution to our CPX conference. Seminar and keynote is very important part of Computex. Through these keynotes and forum, Computex we can learn the new trend, the technology trends, and the speakers is really a good help to us. Thank you very much again. And thank you all the participants for coming, for joining us today. And have a great day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
谢谢，请秘书长留步。我们请秘书长留步。我们接下来要进行的是合影留念。Now we would like to invite all the 3 keynote speakers in the morning to please go on stage for group photo shooting. 我们再次的请秘书长上台，我们也请早上的3位讲者也与我们一起上台合影留念。Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome David Kuo, co-founder of iiiNNO, Peter Westerbecker, co-founder of Lightmeer, and Ben Bateman, Senior Director of Strategic Programs, Indiegogo. Gentlemen, please put your thumbs up. Please stick your hands out and put your thumbs up for the photographers to take a few more photos. Thank 再次的感谢外贸协会的秘书长，那同时也感谢我们今天早上的3位讲者。Thank you, dear guest of honor and keynote speakers. You may now return to your seat. And now is the moment we've all been waiting for. Today's first keynote presentation. Today's first presenter will be David Kuo, co-founder of iiiNNO, a startup mentor and early-stage angel investor. David focuses on mentoring early-stage entrepreneurs and helping startup companies in growing phase expand to international markets and fundraise with international as well as local investors. He's frequently invited to speak in cities across Asia and judge international startup demo shows. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome David Kuo.
谢谢，大家早，大家早。Good morning, everybody. Good morning, 大家早。你好，你好 ，distinguished guest， 各位来宾。So I will spend the next 20 minutes to share some of the exciting things happening in Taiwan, especially in the Taiwan ecosystem. So today we're going to share 3 things. Take a deep dive to what is happening in Taiwan ecosystem, and most importantly, what is an ecosystem. Second, we're going to talk about opportunity and challenges, and what are the next steps. That will be the last thing to conclude the presentation. So let's go on. So what is an ecosystem? So ecosystem is basically made out of people, startup, and the main objective is to what? To help startup. So in this system, there's different stakeholders, ranging from investors, accelerator, government, policymakers, mentor, anything that has a positive, negative impact on the ecosystem, we consider as a key stakeholder in the system. They are crucial to the development maturity of any ecosystem. And today we're going to focus on Taiwan. So the current outlook of what is happening is Taiwan ecosystem in Asia and the world is fairly young. So if we would trace the starting date, it's pretty much very hard. But if we take a look at the media coverage, so the media coverage started about year 2010 and 2011. That was the moment where a lot of mainstream start covering. There is the foundation of AppWorks, which is the major accelerator here in Taiwan. The government started to take part about year 2014, and the last 3 years, there's a lot of development from Taiwan and with international markets. There's actually starting to have merger acquisition happening in Taiwan, and also the investment on the seed and the angel round and A round are happening with international investors. So it's a young uprising, but there's yet a lot of things to learn. So that's what we're going to share with everybody. And we see there's some international guests, and hopefully Taiwan will be your best place in Asia. I'm sure there's a lot of competing cities in Asia, but I'm from Taiwan. So talk about acquisition. There's not a lot, but there are some significant ones. A lot of you probably know Wen Huang from Amorize got acquired with 25 million, and Huskal got acquired in Naver. Actually, they actually met in B-Dash in Tokyo, B-Dash in Fukuoka. They met there, and the transaction was made here in Taiwan. These are the most recent. There's not a lot, but it's actually a good start. Let's take a look at the investment. There's an amazing report by the Taiwan Research Institution, a semi-government agency called Taijingyuan, TIER. There's a link. You can actually download it. It has all the investment portfolio from the past 2 years. And let's just take a look of what's happening in the past 2 years. Average, there's about 55 transactions. In the 2 years ago, and this was last year, you can look at there's actually slow growth in the H and the C round, and the amount of investment is actually uprising. Is it good for Taiwan? Of course, it is amazing happening to Taiwan. But compared to our neighboring country, such as Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, there's a lot for us to catch up. But it's a good start. We got to stay positive when we're talking about ecosystem. This is a great work by 500 volunteers that we have found across Taiwan. So 3 years ago, me and my team, we basically went to Taipei, Taichung, Kaohsiung, different stakeholders. We have competencies. It's important for us to communicate. Communicate on important aspects, including definition. What is an accelerator? Is funding important for accelerator? If your accelerator is not funded, do you still consider it as accelerator? What is a co-work space? Is it a business center? So that took about 3 years, and we're so proud and so blessed that actually we have 500 people in the line chat group. If you're really interested to join that line chat group, please contact my community manager, Eileen. She will try her best to add you in the group. So what's happening in this ecosystem? Well, we divided in 3 sections: pre-startup, startup, and growth. And you can see there are different roles that everybody's playing. This was a chart about 6 months ago. It took us 2 weeks in the line chat right before Christmas, and it's widely used by Taiwan government and also by the media, Business Next. It was published. So we redo this every 6 months. As you know, everything happens. Startup comes and goes. So is a service provider. So we see there's an increase of non-funding accelerator. There is a consolidated international events such as Innovex. Innovex is a great example that it's only 2 years old, but it's an uprising event. And then there's a high involvement between government and private sectors. And talking about government and private sector international, we're very excited that the Asian Silicon Valley is a key cornerstone of Taiwan's development. It combined with 40-some governments initiatives, it's worth $300 million across different ministries. We're also very happy, bonjour if you're from France, La French Tech. I'm very honored to also become the board of the La French Tech Taiwan team. And it's also been a pleasure working with Fukuoka City in Japan very closely. We're very happy that one of the Taiwan's first startup visa startup team was with us, and then they just opened up their company in Fukuoka City. It's the first Taiwanese team. So you can see collaboration is not only with the local government, but also with international. Why is government involved important? Let's say you're doing a fintech. You want to go to Japan. You met an investor. Then the investor will ask you, how about your understanding of the Japanese regulation? So who do you go? Well, you call the mayor. You call the prime minister. You work with their team. If the policies are not allowed, well, it's actually going to present a lot of challenges for you. That's why policymakers and government becomes a crucial part for disruptive services. For opportunity in Taiwan right now, we would like Taiwan to be a hub of Asia. Why? In geographic, you can take any low-cost airline or full airline, 3 hours, you are you will be there very fast within less than 3 or 4 hours. Talent and technology. Recently, we brought 6 amazing startup teams. I'm a venture partner of Click Venture Taiwan. We brought 6 teams worth of $1 million, including Blocks, Evenxtra, ODOP. They all want to set up their R&D and operation team here in Taiwan. Is it tough at the first? Yes. We need to understand the needs of international communities and also work closely with the government ecosystem bringing there. But we are there. So talent is very attractive. And also, it's a great testing market. Recently, I've been working with startup team from Korea and Japan. They actually have a dedicated team in China and a dedicated team in Taiwan. The Taiwan team is responsible for Southeast Asia development. Why? Because a lot of Southeast Asian Chinese watch TV from where? From Taiwan. So you can see startup expansion will sometimes leverage on the culture, and Taiwan has that unique, but we don't know sometimes. But this is why I'm sharing with you. So the key challenge is we need to let a lot of people know why Taiwan. Not just because we have Din Tai Fung here in Taiwan. Well, but there's a lot of things that, especially for software and hardware, we know there's a great attraction here in Shenzhen. But I'm sure with the recent government projects such as Triple, such as New Taipei City, we can work together. We can train the local manufacturer to speak. There was a one biggest joke is actually a lot of startup team, they have a biggest challenge communicating with the local manufacturer. You know why? Because startup team doesn't know how to use fax machines. So now we're trying to bridge these little things. Another example is if you're doing business in Taiwan, it requires a little chop, right? US startup team doesn't know what's a chop. So we had an incident where a local accountant quoted says $300 besides $20,000 NT on your registration fee. The startup team says, what? What's a chop? Why are you overcharging me? You can see these are little nuances, but these are the nuances that blocks the amazing startup team, the community to work together. So we're committed to work together, and we believe in no time, Taiwan will be the uprising hub in Taiwan. Policy. So policy and ease for international teams to plug in is very crucial. I know the Uber Airbnb topic has been a top agenda in Taiwan government, but we're working on it. We're not there, but we're working on it. So how do we grow together? It's very important. So the first thing is we need to work together as 打群架. Very, very important. You know, a lot of people in Asia, we were not brought up working together. I'm sorry, my kindergarten teacher didn't teach me how to work together. What's working together? Because first thing mommy would say is mind your own business, right? 那不是你的事情啊，乖乖的, right? You're trained to behave. Well, so a lot of young entrepreneurs right now, they're actually being pulled back with this concept. So as an ecosystem, it's very critical to work together. So what do we mean by working together? Imagine, is it possible that a rising startup team that comes from a South City incubator in Kaohsiung, joined Appwork or APOC accelerators in Taipei, got invested by W. Harper? Is it possible? Yes, it is happening. But it's only on the single digits. We need to make more. And I think it's really happening. So in our 500 people line chat, you know what we chat? Basically, anybody and everybody who has a question, there's no such thing as a stupid questions. So we really want the people in Taiwan to start communicating. Policies, it's very important. The past 2 years, the government has been working very hard. There's a working group on policies. How do we approach digital economy? How do we deal with O2O? How do we deal with shared economy? Yes, sometimes the government take a different position, but we're always happy that there's an open dialogue, and that's a key factor for a city to thrive. The resources where needed. Well, this is something that requires a weak conversation. Right now, the government had a project in Taiwan. Last year, we calculated there's about 40-some government initiatives across 15 ministries. So the government right now has set up ministry without portfolio that act as project manager, communicating with different ministry to deliver the resources at a different stage, at the pre-start stage, the startup stage, and the growth stage. And then also, we want to build a co-creation ecosystem. So this is probably my last slide, but I'm going to spend a bit of time on this. Why is inbound important to Taiwan ecosystem? What is inbound? It's like taking a vacation. If you go to Hawaii to visit, it's outbound. But if your good friend from the US or from Finland coming in, it's called inbound. We believe that by bringing top startups to Taiwan, it will help the growth of Taiwan ecosystems. I think if you're really in the startup ecosystem as one of the service providers, you probably can feel it. But to a lot of people who are new to startup or to the new startup ecosystem, sometimes it's hard to imagine the government is helping foreigners while we have some challenges into our unemployment. It's a sensitive topic, but something that we need to do. Why is it important? Because by working with the international startup team, it's just like where we built the Science Park 30 years ago, right? Everything is new. The best way to learn about international ecosystem is to actually work with them. So what are the key stages for the international team to come in? Stage one, very important, it's called sightseeing. It's going to Taipei 101, 3-day short visit. It's coming to amazing conferences like Computex to meet with the people. So once they go back, they say, hey, Taiwan, it's a not bad choice. At least people will stop at the traffic light, right? The cities are clean. So they go back, they are the ambassador. Stage two is currently what's happening. We're not there in step 3, but in step 2. Step 2 is what? If it's IoT, if the team just actually raised on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, they'll probably find manufacturer here, but they are not set up company because they don't know much about how to set up a company in Taiwan. Or if the investor will be keen in investing in a team, having a Taiwan operation teams. But it's happening. For example, Blocks. Blocks raised 1.7 million on Kickstarters. It's a Hong Kong, London startup teams, and they were with APOC Foundation in their accelerators. They create jobs of 20 people. It's amazing. They are really focusing in Taiwan. They used to work with, they are working with great manufacturers here in Taiwan. That's what we call step 2. And recently, we're honored to help them to incorporate here in Taiwan. Step 3 is what we're currently working with the ecosystem and with the government. Try to change their policy and resources where we can bring them actually, not just come here for sightseeing, but before they come, we work with them very closely. We will line up their partners here. So when they come, they can talk to people, and they can also go to the bank and open an account. Yes, it's not difficult to open a bank account for a foreigner. In fact, it takes about 2-3 days for you to do a name check online. And once you have the name checked, depending if you want to ask your fortune teller to check the Chinese character. If you don't, just go to Google Translate, come up with a Chinese name, go on web, pay the fees, and once you have a name check, bring your shareholder list, go to the bank, and then you can set up your preparation bank account with less than an hour. And then you will send your application to the international investment committees, and with less than 6 weeks, you will get your Taiwan subsidies. So that's what we want to work together to help more international teams to set up here. Of course, there are challenges. There's a lot of challenge talking about lack of funding. But I think a lot of investors from Japan and Korea are always constantly on this island. In fact, one of the most vibrant VC here in Taiwan are the SoftBank, are the Infinity Ventures. Alibaba has fund through W. Harper and another China Development Bank. So if you're a startup here in Taiwan, Taiwan is one of the best place for you to go to internationally. So now I would like to conclude my slides. If you have any question, I'll be around. So once again, thank you so much. I'm David from iiiNNO. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David, for joining us this morning. And the next speaker will be Peter Westerbeke. He's the co-founder of Lightyear, a company that is dedicated to creating fun, innovative, educational, and learning games. Peter is a Finnish entrepreneur. He served at Rovio Entertainment and managed its marketing and brand. expanding Angry Bird to the international franchise it is today. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us put our hands together and give a very warm welcome to Peter.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to everybody. So, yeah, and it's really good to be here in Taipei. It's actually my first time, so I was kind of surprised myself that I haven't ended up here before. But it's been a fantastic week, and great to meet with kind of like the local startups here. It really reminds me of kind of like early days of Rovio and some other things. Actually, today I thought I'll share a little bit about kind of like my triple E approach to changing the world. So, you know, as entrepreneurs, we always say that we want to change the world, but I'm serious about it. And I've been looking at this for now, like working with startups for the last 20 years. So I think that it's very important that we take a big picture view and we look at kind of like not only the entrepreneurship part, but as we heard, you know, in David's presentation also previously about the importance of education. So I think that we need to look at education, entrepreneurship, and also entertainment. But before I go into that, of course, you heard that I've been involved with Angry Birds. So last 6 years, I was at Rovio building Angry Birds into what it is today. So fastest growing consumer brand ever. But again, it started from kind of like very humble beginnings. So actually, I started my career working for like the original startup. So the company that Bill and Dave started with like $150 of venture capital in 1939 in their garage in Palo Alto. So you might have heard about that company, HP, that then, you know, like led to Silicon Valley. Reason why I wanted to mention HP, of course, being like the original startup, that's where I started. Okay, I wasn't there when Bill and Dave started the company in 1939, so I'm not that old. But anyway, I think that is a good reminder that actually Silicon Valley, that everybody likes to talk about, didn't like happen overnight. It got started in 1939, so it wasn't started by like Facebook or Google or Twitter or one of these like newcomers. It was actually like way back in 1939. And also, if you look at Rovio and Angry Birds came out 11th of December 2009. But Rovio as a company didn't get started, you know, like the day before or anything like that. Actually, it started in 2003. And Rovio came out of a game-making competition that I organized while I was working at HP. So in 2003, so, you know, many years before the iPhone, many years before Android, this was, you know, the time when our friends from Nokia were still making phones. So, but actually, I guess that you could say that they're again getting back to making phones. But anyway, so in 2003, they had just come out with the first like smartphones, and we decided then to organize a competition to make the best possible mobile multiplayer game, and this was in 2003. And then 3 guys from Aalto University in Helsinki, Finland, Niklas and 2 of his friends. So Kim and Jarno, those 3 guys took part in this competition. They created a game called King of the Cabbage World, and don't worry, you like never heard about it because it was never published under that name. But any long story short, they won the competition. And as I mentioned, they were students at the Aalto University. So after the competition, they came to me and said that, okay, that, you know, now we won the competition, now what? And I told them that I've always believed that you should do what you love. So these guys, you know, clearly loved making games, loved playing games. So told them that, okay, why don't you start a company to make games? You know, it's easy. Okay, 2003, and you know, timing maybe not kind of like the best to start a game company, especially focused on mobile games. And they started Relude, which then soon changed its name and became Rovio in 2003. 51 games, 6 years later. 50-second game, Angry Birds. So not exactly like an overnight success story. And that's also my point about like the Silicon Valley and like many things, that we always hear about these fantastic success stories, and then it's, oh yeah, you know, a couple of guys like in a garage or like something got lucky, and you know, now they are making, you know, millions or billions, and it's like overnight success. Actually, also at Rovio, it was a long process. 51 games, then 52nd game, Angry Birds. So not exactly, you know, like, you know, just make a game and hope for the best. So point there, that's like long learning experience, a lot of not so successful games, and then 52nd game, Angry Birds. Okay, then what happened with Angry Birds was that it didn't take off immediately. And actually at the time, 12 people in the company and not doing great. So if Angry Birds wouldn't have been successful, then I wouldn't be here, and the company wouldn't be around. So again, it was kind of like one of these like make or break situations. But launched the game in December 2009 and didn't have like a massive marketing budget or anything like that. So we had to, you know, use word of mouth marketing, basically telling our friends, you know, and families in Finland that please download the game. And this was in 2009. So, you know, it was like early days of like iPhone and all of that. So being in Finland, home of Nokia, not so many iPhones. So then telling friends and family to download the game in Finland meant that, okay, #1 in Finland. So that's how we kind of like made Angry Birds happen there. And then we did the same in our neighboring country, Sweden. Then Apple kind of like took note that there's something going on, and they featured Angry Birds in the App Store in UK and the US, and okay, went straight to #1 and stayed there for like 200 plus days or something like that. But anyway, so point being that it wasn't kind of like, it wasn't luck. It took a few games to get there, and also the marketing, it wasn't about having, you know, billions or even millions to spend on marketing. Actually, we had nothing. So we had to basically be smart about it. And anyway, having made a lot of games before, we also very early decided that actually it's not about making games, it's about building brands. So once we had success with Angry Birds, our plan from the beginning was that, okay, let's take it everywhere. So to every platform, every screen, every mobile, you know, operating system. So of course iOS and Android, but also the others that were around at the time. Put it on like TV, so on Samsung smart TVs. But we didn't stop there. We also then took the brand into toys, into other consumer products. And immediately people started telling us that, hey guys, you're a games company. You know, what are you doing? You don't know anything about making toys. Of course we didn't know anything about making toys, but we teamed up with Commonwealth Toy in New York, and they've been making toys for like 100 plus years. So again, you can always find people that you can work with that know more about any like given market than you do. So partnering absolutely key. And then over the next 3 years in licensing, we made Angry Birds one of the top 10 brands in entertainment on the planet. So there's like 7 Disney brands, so you know, Mickey and Friends, Star Wars, Marvel, you name it, and only 3 non-Disney brands. So Hello Kitty, so this middle-aged cat that's been around for 40 plus years. Snoopy, and then Angry Birds. So we're the only brand that was like, you know, 3 years old, and we made it to the top 10 in just a few years. And then we also expanded into animation, so we started creating our own animated series. And yeah, what the end result was that we made the brand pretty well known. So if you look at the world today, 93% of the Chinese population knows the brand, 91% in India, 9 out of 10 people on the planet knows the brand. And then last year we brought out the first movie, made it #1 in 52 countries, US, China, Russia. I'm sure it was #1 here in Taiwan as well, so like pretty much everywhere. And that was kind of like a good time for me to say that, okay, now, you know, the team knows how to run with this, and it's a good time to focus on bigger things. So I left the day-to-day operations of Rovio in the summer last year, so almost exactly a year ago. And as I said, it was a good time to kind of like start to focus on even bigger things. So And actually, I'll get back to that in a bit and what we're doing at Lightyear. But one thing I also wanted to use as an example here, and looking at kind of like Angry Birds, and then, as I mentioned, been working with startups for the last 20 years. So I think that it all starts with believing that you can do anything. And if you look at Angry Birds, I mean, 3 young guys, 3 students, Helsinki, Finland, and they create a game, and then all of a sudden, one of the biggest brands on the planet. So there's no reason why you couldn't do the same here in Taipei. Absolutely no reason. One thing also then getting asked that, okay, how did you guys make Angry Birds happen? And I always say that there's not, like one single answer. I mean, if it would be easy to kind of like make hit games and building brands, everybody would be doing it all the time, and it's damn difficult. But I think one thing that is very important and kind of like a lesson from like the Angry Birds like growth. So very early, I told the team that, okay, we're going to have 100 million downloads. And then everybody told me, this was when we had like 1-2 million, which is also a big number. So I was told that it's impossible. Nobody has done that. I mean, Tetris got to 100 million, it took them 20 plus years. So it's impossible to get to 100 million. And then what happened was that in the first 12 months we got to 50 million. Then Christmas 2010 happened. We added 25 million because everybody was getting like new iPhones, Androids for Christmas. And then in March 2011, 100 million. What's very interesting there that this was impossible. Super ambitious goal, but we made it. So then after that, people really started believing that, of course we can do anything. So my answer when people ask me that, okay, how did you make it happen? I said that, okay, we're from Finland, and as you probably know, everybody in Finland knows how to walk on water. And then, people are like, what do you mean, walking on water? So what I mean that everybody at Rovio knew they could walk on water because nobody had proven otherwise. So when we did a new game, just put like a little note on the PowerPoint that, okay, target 100 million downloads. Easy. Been there, done that. So then, of course, everybody understands that 100 million downloads is like not trivial, but you can like get into this mode that, of course, that's like easy. And then now if you look at Angry Birds, 4 billion downloads. It's pretty massive. So we thought that 100 million was like a lot, but then we just started kind of like, okay, yeah, it's, not that difficult. So again, walking on water, not that difficult. And then, of course, walking on water, if you come to Finland in the winter, it's typically the case that the water is frozen. So it's very easy to walk on water. First, you think it's impossible, like many things in life, but then, it's not that difficult because, again, walking on ice, okay, it's slippery, but it's not that difficult. So I think that's a very important lesson that, of course, you should always set super ambitious goals. And then, like, when you get there, then you think that, okay, it wasn't that ambitious and it wasn't that difficult. So then another thing, if you then look at Finland, so we haven't always had, this fantastic startup ecosystem with, hundreds of game studios and, startups in many different areas. VR, AR, AI, we already heard about. We have tons and tons of startups in those areas. But actually, if you go back to 2007, time before Angry Birds, I gave a talk to 600 students at Aalto University about entrepreneurship. And during my presentation, okay, I of course tried to make the case that it's fantastic to work at startups, and that's what the young people should do. And then I asked them that, okay, how many of you guys are going to start your own company once you graduate, or even before? That's okay as well. Out of 600 people, 600 students in 2007, 3 raised their hand. So then it's like, what? I mean, this is like a disaster. 3 out of our brightest, 3 out of 600 of our brightest students want to do our own company. The rest probably want to work for the government, and okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But, I mean, we can't all work for the government or the big corporations. So again, we had to do something. So then, very typical for Finland that big problem, we need to work together. So then together with a few friends, in November 2008, we organized the first Slush. So the first Slush startup event. Invited a few kind of like fellow entrepreneurs, so Risto Siilasmaa, who started F-Secure, now known for being chairman of Nokia, Ilkka Paananen, who was working at a games company called Digital Chocolate. Ilkka is now better known for having launched Supercell at Slush a few years later, and last year, nice acquisition by Tencent for 10 billion, which is, you know, a lot of money. So not too bad for a startup, a nice exit. Then also invited Sampo Karjalainen, who created Sulake, known for like Habbo Hotel, Monty Videnius, who created MySQL. So, you know, some well-known founders, and I just asked them to share with the young people, you know, why it's cool to be an entrepreneur, why they should do a startup. And we had 300 people at the first Slush event in Helsinki, Finland, November. And it was very successful. I mean, very like energizing. Everybody was really like excited, very passionate, and you know, listening to these successful founders. So it's like, okay, if those guys can do it, so can we. And then at the first Slush, I said that this is going to become the world's biggest, and I mean, goes without saying, best startup event. So that's what we're going to do. And then I was again told that, hey, Peter, it's Helsinki, it's Finland, it's cold, dark, slush on the ground, can't be done, it's impossible. I mean, what about Silicon Valley? Fast forward 5 years. Slush grew to about 20,000 people from more than 100 countries. So it became the biggest startup-focused event on the planet. So again, you know, the walking on water thing, not that difficult. So we made it happen. But I think very important is how we made it happen. First of all, with Slush, we worked together. We brought together the local startups, the local entrepreneurs, and it's all organized by volunteers. So by local young people, actually not only local anymore, I mean young people from more than 50 countries. They are organizing it. They're there because they want to be there, not because somebody told them to be there. So that's kind of like the whole volunteers working together thing. So that's something that makes Slush very, very different. But also, we didn't organize Slush just to create just another event. We made Slush happen because we needed to change the mindset and the attitude of the whole like nation. And 5 years after starting Slush, I went back to Aalto University, gave the same talk, asked the same question, and guess what? This time, more than half the hands went up. So in just 5 years, we did a cultural revolution, totally changed the attitude towards entrepreneurship. Last year, there was a study of 13 and 14-year-olds globally about their dreams. And guess what? More than 30% of the young people in Finland, their dream is to start their own company. Highest percentage anywhere on the planet. Higher than US, China, Taiwan, anywhere. So complete change in mindset. And even the young people now, their dream is to be an entrepreneur. Okay, it's only 30%, so we still have like a way to go, but you know, it's pretty good. So it's a good start. And that's what we set out to do. Not an event, but to change the world, actually. And now we started doing Slush in Tokyo, in Shanghai, in Singapore, and who knows, maybe we'll do something here as well. One thing that is important, if you look at how we made Angry Birds happen, how we made Slush happen, is that we did it very differently. So we didn't do what everybody else is doing. So why is Slush called Slush? Because Helsinki in November, cold, dark, slush on the ground. Not the Silicon Valley. Better. Much, much better because it's different. So many times doing things differently makes it better. And just doing the same as everybody else, that's not leadership. It's, you know, doesn't lead to new things, new innovation. I mean, anybody knows how to copy things. But doing things differently really takes courage. Like at Angry Birds, we didn't listen to the people who told us that, hey, what do you guys know about making toys? Or this and that, and you should stick to games because that's what you do, and that's, like your role in life. Same thing with Slush, that, I mean, we didn't want to do just another of these wannabe Silicon Valley events. We made it very, very clear by organizing it in November in Helsinki that there's no way you can mistake that for Silicon Valley. It's not sunny, no palm trees, no beautiful people walking on beaches, surfing, Cold, dark slush on the ground, but it doesn't stop us from making amazing stuff happen. Which brings me then to education. So Finland, only 5 million people, so, tiny. It's like a small neighborhood here. But we still delivered some interesting things. I mean, of course, we made Angry Birds, Nokia, Linux, MySQL. Supercell had a nice 10 billion exit. So for 5 million people, it's not too bad. So I think that one of the reasons is really that we start with fantastic education. So if you look at the Finnish educational system, it's actually best on the planet. I have 2 kids, 12 and 14. They go to school 9 or 10 in the morning. They get home 1 or 2 in the afternoon. They have almost no homework. So very short school days, not a lot of homework, and we deliver the same or better learning results as here, or in Shanghai, or in Singapore, or Tokyo, or Seoul. So much shorter school days, much less homework, and we still deliver better learning results. So I think it's like pretty fantastic. I have lots of friends here in Asia, all over the place, and when I talk to parents, I hear that their kids go to school super early in the morning, and then they get home fairly late, they have extra tutoring, and then they have like lots of homework, and they get to sleep like late in the night, and then they repeat that, sometimes not just 5 days a week, but 7 days a week. So you have school, not much life. Guess what? That totally kills initiative, that totally kills creativity. So then when you finish school and somebody from the government tells you that, hey, please do a startup, first question is that, okay, is there a book or a manual? How do I do that? That's not how you do entrepreneurship or startups. You kind of have to think for yourself. You have to do things that haven't been done before. That's what you need to do. So education is really the foundation for building successful startup ecosystems. And I have no background in education myself. I'm not a pedagogue, but okay, I have 2 kids, so I guess that makes me a bit of an expert. And yeah, I've been through the school system myself, obviously. So I think that just looking at that, then and it's one of these things that I didn't realize that the Finnish educational system was so good and fantastic before I started looking at the educational system in the US, which is a mess, by the way, and then looking at Asia, where it's has challenges for other reasons. So then I realized that actually have to do something about this, and that's what I meant, that it's good time to focus on bigger things. So after leaving the day-to-day operations, Rovio started focusing on education. Guess what? Second biggest market on the planet, $6.3 trillion. So not billion, but trillion, big number. And then looking at education globally, I think that we can make it a lot more efficient. So I think that we can reduce the market size over the next 10 years to 3 trillion. Save a lot of money, make it more efficient. And then I figured that, okay, let's be modest, a modest Finnish person, so let's go for 10% market share globally, only. That's 300 billion, if you do the math. So it's a good start. So that's basically what I'm working on right now. So started several companies now to go after this massive opportunity. Basing it on the Finnish approach to education. And one of the companies that we started actually over a year ago now is Lightyear. And we just launched our first game. So it's a fantastic game. It's available here in Taiwan. So you should actually now, if you have your phone out, so you know what to do, go to the App Store or Google Play and look for a game called Big Bang Legends by Lightyear. Should download it, and I'm serious, you should, so please do that. Every download counts. want to be #1 in Taiwan, like we're in Singapore and Hong Kong and Finland, where we also launched it. But the interesting thing with this, it's a game that's been made by some of the people who made Angry Birds. So we're now like 18 people in Helsinki, Finland. And it's a fantastic game. But we have now play tested the game. We took it to schools in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Finland. Haven't been to schools here in Taiwan yet, but I have a few friends that promised to take care of that on my behalf and test it on kids here in Taiwan as well. The interesting thing is that, okay, we go to the school and then we ask all the kids that, okay, who loves playing games? Actually, I'll ask the same here. So who here loves playing games? Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's okay to love playing games. I'm actually surprised that it's not more. So I think that some of you are like afraid of losing face. Actually, I have to say that, you know, this losing face is just a saying. It doesn't mean that you physically lose face. So it's nothing serious. This is also very important in the startup world that, I mean, failure, massive success. 51 games, 50-second Angry Birds. So it's, you know, you have to kind of like deal with that. But anyway, so we go to schools and we ask people, the kids, if they love playing games, and typically pretty much everybody does. So then we ask that, okay, who here loves particle physics? Anybody? Anybody love particle physics? Yeah, typically nobody loves particle physics. I don't know why. So then we tell the kids that, okay, it's actually great to play games and you should play games in class. And then the teachers look at, oh, what, you know, like we let these crazy Finnish people into the class, they're destroying our youth and, you know, like telling them to play games. Then we give the kids iPads, they play the game for like 15 minutes. And then we ask them that, okay, so did you like the game? They were saying, yeah, it's fantastic, could we kind of like keep playing? And then we asked them, okay, so very good, so did you learn anything? And then every time the kids tell us that, no, we didn't learn anything. Then we ask them that, do you know how many quarks in a proton? Anybody here know? 3. 3 quarks in a proton. Every single kid in the class after 50 minutes knows that there are 3 quarks in a proton. Then we ask them that, okay, can you name like 5 atoms? And then they go, hydrogen, helium, lithium. And then the teachers look at it like, what? We've never seen the kids learn so much so fast. Just by playing a game, while having fun. So when you play Big Bang Legends, so the first game that we made at Lightyear, you will learn particle physics. You know who this guy is? Neon. We made the full periodic table into characters. And then even though we're like a games company, we also made it into like, you know, these kind of like playing cards. So here you'll see, you know, like hydrogen, helium, all of these guys. They're all like characters. So we're making the Pokemon of particle physics. Kids will grow up, kids and adults will grow up knowing, just like they today know Pikachu and all of those guys. I mean, anybody with kids knows that they know hundreds of Pokemon by heart. They will tell you that it's a fire, water, whatever Pokemon, where they found it and all of that. By playing Big Bang Legends, they will grow up knowing the whole periodic table, all the characters. They will know that this is neon. They will know helium. They will know, you know, that helium has 2 protons, just by playing the game. And hopefully in like 10, 20 years, we'll have like a Nobel Physics Prize acceptance speech where the Nobel Prize winner will tell the world that I got excited about physics as a kid when I played Big Bang Legends. So that's what we're doing at Lightyear. We're trying to make learning fun. We're trying to make learning happen through games. And we know that it works. So we have already proven that by taking the game to several schools. We're also now here in Taiwan. And I think that this is, again, an example of, you know, it's not impossible. It's actually fairly straightforward to make learning happen. It's just about getting people excited about, in this case, particle physics. So you always get asked, why did you start with particle physics? I said, okay, we want to start with something easy and fun. And then people are like, yeah, okay, easy and fun, particle physics. Next we'll do quantum physics, then we'll get to like molecules, chemistry, biology, geography, languages. So we're gonna make a full series of games around these characters. And again, then you could always ask, okay, what does this guy on like the team know about particle physics? Guess what? We are working with CERN. So we're working with several Nobel Prize winners in physics. So some of the best scientists in the world. We're working with the University of Helsinki, so we have the best pedagogues. So we're bringing together best game designers, best scientists, best pedagogues, and that's what made it possible for us to make learning happen through games. So I think that really the key to moving forward and making the world a better place, we need to look at education, entrepreneurship, and entertainment. So this kind of like triple E model. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And once more, please download the game, check it out, have your kids play it, and they'll probably win the maybe the Peace Prize as well, but at least the Physics Prize. So yeah, thank you, and it was really great to being here.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for sharing with us your triple E model. And today's the third presenter will be Ben Bateman. Ben is Indiegogo's Senior Director of Strategic Programs, and he currently leads Indiegogo's China efforts. He has been a key player in building Indiegogo's hardware category and now focuses on helping Asia-based companies launch products internationally through Indiegogo. Without further ado, please help me welcome Ben Bateman.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Ben, and I'm here from Indiegogo to talk about launching products globally through crowdfunding. Now, I've been at Indiegogo for about 5 years now, and I've worked to launch hundreds of products both domestically and internationally. So I'm going to start off by giving some larger context to what crowdfunding does for businesses, because it's changed a lot and it's changed really fast. But after that, I want to jump into how you can help your company go global with crowdfunding. So I want this to be really actionable information for you. So what is Indiegogo and what are we doing? Our mission is to empower people to unite around ideas that matter to them and then make those ideas happen. And so that umbrella covers a lot of different things. And our company has also covered a lot of different things. We've helped companies raise over $1 billion. We've had hundreds of thousands of projects. But in the past few years, we've seen ourselves focus and seen the crowdfunding market focus on people who are making and launching products and on businesses. And we've seen different stages of why people use crowdfunding for businesses. Originally, it was just for fundraising. And this might be what you imagine when you think of crowdfunding. People who go online and go to a crowd of a bunch of people and say, hey, I'm trying to make something, so please give me some money, and I'm going to go and make it. But we've seen that evolve as people find new reasons to use crowdfunding. And I'm going to talk through those because those are going to give some more context for why people use us to launch globally and what you might be able to do with that. So how did crowdfunding start with products? It started with people who couldn't make their products any other way. And this is one of my favorite projects we've worked on. This is actually from a long time ago. This is from 2013. But this is a plastic gun called Bug Assault. And Bug Assault's a pretty goofy product. You fill it with table salt, and you shoot it at flies, and it kills flies and other bugs. It's really funny. And this is Lorenzo, their founder, and he really wanted to make this product. But investors did not think this was going to be a giant success. It's a gun that shoots salt and kills bugs. It just sounded goofy, and people didn't have a lot of confidence. But he thought this was a really great idea. It was his obsession. And he was based in Los Angeles, and he spent 3 years going and making the product, setting it up. He had all of his manufacturing ready, but he couldn't afford to make the first run of the product. So he decided, okay, nobody's willing to give me money. I'm just going to go and see if I can do anything online. And he launched the product on Indiegogo. He was able to raise almost $600,000 from people who really wanted the Bug Assault salt gun to kill bugs. This surprised us. It surprised him. He now has a much larger company based out of LA, and they have a bunch of different units for different sized bugs. But this is a really good example of why companies started using crowdfunding. They wanted to have their customers help them make their ideas real. Their customers could actually pay for their manufacturing. This made it a lot easier for startups who couldn't find investment, or who had trouble getting people to believe in their idea, even if customers really would want it. Of course, we're seeing a lot of other reasons companies crowdfund. We see more established companies are actually a lot more interested in learning about their customers and learning about the market than they are in raising funds. And I think the best example of this is the Opal Nugget Ice Maker. So this campaign was actually run by the R&D department out of GE. Now, if there's any company that doesn't need to raise money, it doesn't need help making a product, it's GE. You know, they're a Fortune 500 company, tons of money, lots of abilities. But they did want to know more about their customers and about their market. So this product makes nugget ice. Now, nugget ice is a really soft, chewable kind of ice that's popular in the American South. I did not know about nugget ice until this campaign launched with us. But their R&D department came up with this product that can make a lot of it really fast. It's a $400 countertop ice machine. Now, with a lot of GE's products, they just launch them, put them into a lot of stores because they know that there's a big market for them. But with this product, they didn't know. Their engineers really believed in it, and they had some customers who were excited about it. But before they launched it with us, they didn't have an idea of how popular it would be. So they launched with us to discover that. And they found out it was incredibly popular. They had over 6,000 customers come and buy it in just 60 days. They raised over $2.7 million from people who paid $400 for an ice machine that didn't exist yet. And they got a lot of press coverage and a lot of attention. And more than that, they also learned about their customers. They learned who their customers were, what their preferences were for the product, what kinds of products worked, what price points worked. So their interest was getting a lot of information. Now, this wasn't going to be their big sales channel. GE can go through big box stores. GE has a lot of other available channels to sell the product. But it was a great way for them to learn more information about that product so that when they went on to make those million-dollar decisions about the product, are they going to put it inside a fridge? What stores are they going to put it in? They have a lot more insight into what to do. Their head of R&D actually said that launching through crowdfunding was 20 times cheaper than a traditional product rollout. So for big businesses, this isn't something they want to do because they need the money, of course, but they want to learn about their product and their customers. Now, there's a lot of space between Bug Assault and GE. They're very differently sized companies. But everybody we work with is usually looking for some kind of increase in branding and awareness. And crowdfunding is a really great tool for this, especially for new products. We're a very narrative way to sell a product. You have a video on crowdfunding that explains what you're doing, and customers like to watch these because our customers are early adopters. You have a whole page where you describe what the product does, what the benefits are. Really deep and really niche information about a product that you're not going to get if you have a product sitting in a Walmart or a Best Buy or even on most Amazon pages. It just doesn't go into that same depth. You also have a beginning and a middle and an end to crowdfunding. You start your project, you're raising money, and then the project ends and you go and make your product. So it provides a really strong narrative structure that helps you do marketing and awareness. So we see a lot of mid-sized companies who are doing that. This project was Air by Crazy Baby. Now this was actually the second product they launched with us, and they were wireless earbuds that you could use to listen to your phone. Now they launched, but they launched at a really important time for them. This was last November, really soon after Apple had announced their new AirPod wireless earbuds, and after the iPhone 7 had come out, and we knew there wasn't going to be a headphone jack. For them, it was really important that they got a lot of visibility on this project, and they got a lot of attention. So they launched with us, and we're actually able to raise almost $3 million and get tons of views, get tons of customers at a really competitive time. Now, what they ended up with was a very public page that showed off their success that they can use when they're talking to distributors. They can use when they're going and trying to make any other kind of partnership when they're raising investment, even talking to their manufacturer before they've actually finalized the product. They have proof of the kind of demand they can generate in just 60 days. So for existing companies of any size, branding and awareness is really exciting. When this all comes together, a lot of companies, especially companies based in Asia, have realized that this bundle of things you can accomplish is really interesting. You can do things a lot more cheaply because customers can pay you ahead of time to make your product. You can learn a lot about the market you're trying to get into. You can get customer information, you can learn details about how those customers respond to your product, and while doing that, you can get a lot of awareness about what your brand is. You can tell a story about who you are, and you can talk to customers in a really deep way. Well, this becomes really exciting if you're outside of the US trying to get in. With one project and one launch, you can do a lot of things that help de-risk launching globally. And that's something that me and my team have seen over the past year and a half, as we've worked to help companies from Asia launch into international markets. One example is Xgimi. So this is a company based in Chengdu, and they were a smart projector company that was doing really well. When we started working with them, they had about 300 people, and they were the leading smart projector brand in China. But they didn't have any recognition in the US. They weren't selling products, and they didn't know how to enter that market. So we worked with them, and over the past year and a half, they've launched 2 different projects. Together, those have raised $1.3 million and gotten them almost over 2,500 customers. But what's more exciting is what that's helped them do since then. They've been able to leverage their customers from Indiegogo to go and leave reviews on Amazon and to advocate for them in a lot of other channels. So now they have an excited base of customers who can speak to how good the brand is, who actually use the product and love it. They also have these pages that are marketing collateral to help them sell into distribution. They can go to Best Buy and say, hey, we were able to get thousands of customers in a really short time frame. Because of the information we learned about those customers, we're pretty sure they're a match to the people who you're selling to in your stores. So already they're coming in with a lot more information than they could if they haven't done this launch before entering the US market. And they were able to do this without building an office in the US and with minimal investment actually on the ground. They can do a lot of this remotely. And this isn't the only campaign we've seen do this. We worked with Furbo out of Taipei here, and they raised over $500,000. OmniCharge out of Shanghai, over $3 million. GDP out of Shenzhen, over $3 million as well. So we're working with many different companies who want to use us as a stepping stone to get into the US. So crowdfunding as a way to do market entry is something that's really exciting and something that a lot of teams are catching on to and that our team's really excited about. But that doesn't mean that it's not really challenging. I've talked to you a lot about campaigns that have done this really well, but we know that crowdfunding on its own is not just challenging. It's new for a lot of teams we work with. Most people launching with us are launching for the first time. But also, just launching into a different culture is really challenging as well. So next, I'm going to talk to you about those 2 different things. First, the challenges of crowdfunding and how to plan around that. If you're actually trying to plan a crowdfunding campaign, what can you do, or how can you plan to do that in a way that's going to make your launch successful? And then second, I'm going to go into some of the specific challenges we've seen from teams launching internationally. So crowdfunding. It's pretty straightforward to think about what to do to prepare for a campaign. You want to make a plan, find the right talent for what you're trying to do, position your product for the right market, build your materials, and then you launch and you want to drive traffic. Now today, I'm not going to focus on positioning your product or building materials. Those are both really complex subjects, and they don't do well in an overview. We have a lot of materials on them, or you can talk to me afterwards and I can share where to find those. But I am going to go into the planning process, both for finding talent, planning in general, and how to drive traffic. This should give you a really good overview on at least what it takes to run a campaign and give you enough to go and research later if you want to do this yourself. First, I think it's important to think about why you want to run a campaign. I've talked about a lot of reasons different companies do it. You might focus on one or all of these. If your focus is just raising money and being as profitable as possible, you might spend a lot less or put more effort into it because you really want to just generate a profit. If you're just about driving awareness, you might be willing to actually spend money or even make less of a profit if it's going to get you that marketing or brand awareness. And if you're just focused on learning and interacting with your customers, you might want a much smaller campaign and put a lot of your effort into interacting with those customers rather than creating the biggest, most marketable campaign possible. Now, once you've done that, you should scale your timeline and your budget based on those goals. Now, timeline can vary. We see people going from 6 to 15 months from coming up with the idea to actually shipping the product. Now, we recommend spending more time planning if at all possible. Planning a campaign is where most teams put in the effort, and this is especially important if you're launching internationally. There are a lot of really challenging things to figure out, and the process to launch takes a long time. One thing that we see hurts teams the most is if they rush a launch because they have a really tight timeline. Now, if you're planning out, okay, what's your budget and what's realistic for you, you're going to go into a lot of research and look at a lot of different campaigns. Now, one of my biggest recommendations is to understand that campaigns come in two different parts. You have your conversion rate, which you can see here is just like, what does the actual crowdfunding page look like? This is really easily accessible. You can go online and look through crowdfunding sites, and there are thousands of pages available for you to go through, and you copy the people who do this best. It's really straightforward. What's really challenging is to see what those teams did behind the scenes that made their campaigns work. How much did they spend on their budget? How many team members did they have? What did they have to create for this campaign, and what was already created because they had those marketing materials? Those things are really challenging to see. Now, I'm going to share our own view on what, in general, you should do here, but I also recommend talking to a lot of other founders. Talking to other teams who have gone through this will give you a lot of context. In general, we recommend estimating about 20% of your final goal for a marketing budget. So if you want to raise $100,000, plan on spending about $200,000 to prepare that campaign. Now, that can go up and down a lot depending on what skills your team has and what skills you might need to bring in. If you're hiring agencies or third parties to help you with everything, that can get really expensive. If you have a team with really wide skills and a lot of time and you can do all this yourself, it might be a lot less than that. For examples of things that need to get done. So if you're going to launch a campaign, what do you need to do? It can be copywriting, graphic design, you have to create a landing page, you need photography, you need to do a video, digital marketing. There's a lot of different tasks. You need to decide which of these your team can do and which you might need help with. Are you going to find someone outside who's going to help you do this? So once you understand the list of things that need to be done for your specific campaign, you divide that work between your team and partners. Now, an example division of that work looks like this. Your team might do things like doing the copywriting, the graphic design, creating the personality for what your product is, and putting it on a page. And then you might pull in someone else to do things that are typically really challenging or need special skills. That can be digital marketing, like buying Facebook or Google ads, or that can be making a video. Those are two things that typically a small team isn't going to have in-house. But this is just an example, and this can change a lot depending on the specific campaign. Some other things to plan around here are just cost. Like, just because an agency is really expensive or someone's really expensive to work with doesn't mean they're great. Look for some work history. Also, think about the time. There's a lot of really good partners out there who can do really good work if they have 2 or 3 months ahead of launch. But if you want someone to come in 2 weeks before you're going to launch your product, you're probably going to pay a lot more for that. And finally, really look for the team expertise. We're in a pretty young industry in crowdfunding, and it can be really hard to tell who's good and who's bad. So talk to people that any partner has worked with before to try to get a clear idea of what their actual experience is. Some typical ranges for costs are up here. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but these are big areas where people tend to find a partner. That can be video, digital advertising, PR, or potentially a full-service crowdfunding agency. Before you launch, we really do recommend having these 3 things. You need a working prototype. Now, this might not have been the case 3 or 4 years ago when people were really happy to support ideas. But people who are buying products through crowdfunding now are more skeptical. They really want to see that you know how to make your product, that it works. And this is especially important for press. I will say this again later. Press really wants to see a prototype before they want to cover your product. They're skeptical too. Have your manufacturing locked in. Now, this is important not just because customers really want this and it makes them a lot more trusting, but you can also get in a lot of trouble if you crowdfund too early. If your manufacturing isn't locked, if you don't know your BOM, you can end up underpricing your product and actually losing money even with a very successful campaign. We've seen it happen and we push really hard against it. Not a lot these days, but in the early days of crowdfunding, it did happen occasionally. And finally, you need to launch with an engaged and excited audience. Now, maybe 5 years ago, you could launch a really crazy product like Bug Assault with very little preparation and hope to go viral. And we still do see that some products do go viral, but that's really rare. You really have to plan on how to bring in your own audience. If I go and see a campaign with 0 audience, my first thought is, did your mom not even think this was a good idea? Like, why doesn't anyone support this? I don't trust it. It's like if I walk by an empty restaurant, I'm just going to assume it's bad. But if I walk by a restaurant that's full and has a long line, I assume that it's really good because all these other people trust it. Crowdfunding works in a really similar way. You want to build that audience ahead of time. So a few ways to plan to drive traffic are to build an email list on your landing page, talk to your social network, tell people ahead of time that you're doing this, talk to your friends and family, make sure your mom does come in and help you out. And afterwards, work on press, work on digital advertising. The one of these that I'll push on the most today, and that I recommend for everybody, is to do a pre-launch landing page. This can look like this page for Loop. You put up a short page that describes your product and asks for some basic information. You want someone's email address and their name so you can talk to them later. This is important for a few different reasons. The first is that you can actually test out your marketing idea. And this is especially important for international companies. If you're launching into a market that's not the culture you've grown up with or the culture that you know the best, you need to test your ideas before you launch. You don't want to launch a crowdfunding campaign very publicly and then find out that your marketing really doesn't work with these customers. Then there's a giant ticking clock and a big $0 sign, and you have to redo your marketing really fast without that. If you launch ahead of time, you can actually test this. Most companies we work with who are running sophisticated campaigns will have a page up like this, and they might have this headline that talks about looping in your loved ones. They might have a second one that half their audience sees that just talks about the technical specs. It talks about what the product is and describes how it's better than the competition. They can actually test that, and over time, before they launch, see which one of those works best with their audience. The other reason this is really exciting is because it lets you start marketing earlier. Now, if I look at this graph here, as you're working on driving customer interest, you're just going to get more and more interested customers over time. If you're really lucky, it's slow and steady up and to the right like this. Well, if you launch your campaign here, you have a live campaign, and at the end of it, you've raised $100,000. That's great. No one's saying $100,000 is a bad thing. But if you actually start marketing earlier, before you launch, and you do that quiet testing, it can actually look more like this. You're still doing that same work of acquiring customers and generating interest, but you're doing it quietly. You aren't doing your public launch yet. Then you launch, and you can actually do $100,000 on your first day. That actually gets the press interested. That gets other customers interested. That creates a really great story. I'm sure you guys have all seen different graphics from people advertising against you that say, hit our goal within the first 24 hours. This is what they're doing. They're doing the slow and steady generation of customer interest. They're not going viral. They're doing planned marketing. So we recommend this for everybody we work with. I said before, but I'll say again, you absolutely must have samples to send to press. This is really critical. Press demand it, and press can generate a lot of dollars. And you should definitely use digital advertising. This is something we're seeing every $1 million plus campaign do. It's super effective. Crowdfunding gets you really good conversion rates, so it's a very good place to spend your money. So with all that, hopefully this graph looks a little less intimidating, and you have an idea of how you can move your own company through this as you're preparing your crowdfunding launch. Next, I want to talk about international challenges. So these are things that we see specifically from teams that are launching from Asia into the US. And I think that these can be avoidable challenges, but they're really good to know about ahead of time if you can know about them ahead of time. And I think one of the biggest challenges is that you don't know what you don't know. If you talk to somebody who's a partner, they might be able to tell you something that you're missing out on, but you don't necessarily know what you need to learn. There's some things that are really clear, but some things can pop up and surprise you. For example, we have teams that submit pages to us, and the grammar is accurate for English. They've given us something, they're launching for an American audience, but for us as native speakers, something just doesn't sound right. It sounds odd to us, and it means that probably customers aren't going to buy this. Well, that can be really surprising if you brought on somebody who majored in English and the grammar's great. It's just something for native speakers. So that's something that you might not know unless you have somebody outside who can come and give you advice. In general, try to watch out for these things, and try to always find somebody in the culture you're aiming to launch in who can help give you advice or help give you insight into that culture. Choosing partners is really hard. Now, I've talked about choosing partners a lot today, and that's because a lot of the companies we work with, especially companies from Asia, work with somebody as they're entering the US market to help them with marketing, to help them figure out how to speak to an audience that's in a different culture than they are. But one of the really common challenges we see is when people are choosing partners is where to choose that partner. I talk with a lot of teams who want to find somebody who's local, so in the same time zone, speaks the same language, and is in the same culture. That team is going to be so much easier to work with than somebody who's far away. The challenge is a lot of local teams just don't have the cultural expertise of living in the culture you're trying to aim at. The people who are easiest to work with might not be the teams that actually are going to give you the best results. For marketing, a team based in the US probably understands the US audience and how to market to them and what works for that audience a lot better than a team that's based here. But that can be a really hard team to work with. We've seen people who have made both choices. And we also know a lot of marketing teams or partners who are based here who are really good. It can just be hard to sort through those. Even if you've decided to work with a team in the US, it can be really hard to pick who's good and bad. If you don't know what great marketing looks like in that culture, it can be hard to tell what teams are good and bad. Here, we recommend talking to some kind of partner who can help you give insight into who can help you and who has the experience. We're a good partner for that for a lot of teams. If you have somebody else locally, talk to them as well. If nothing else, we recommend really talking to any partner you're considering and asking to speak with teams they've worked with and get those references. We've also seen that hardware exports really easily, but ecosystems are hard. And here I'll talk about the Gimi example I mentioned earlier. They're that smart projector based out of Chengdu. They have a great product. I have one and I really love it. It's sits on your counter and it has an Android computer built in and a projector. So I can hook it up and I can just connect it to the internet and it has speakers and I can watch Netflix or watch whatever show I want. But it doesn't integrate into my ecosystem very well. Now they've built up their software in China and they have apps that their Chinese audience really likes. But they don't connect to the Google Play Store, and that's actually hard for them because it's hard to get in touch with Google, and especially if they're a potential competitor with Google Chrome. So their US customers really want better software, but that's a hard thing to integrate. Even if hardware ships and you can get a unit to a customer, integrating into the ecosystem is a lot more challenging. I know for me, I like signing into things with Facebook or signing into things with Google. It's a really easy ecosystem for me to work with. But those can be really challenging if your software team for your local product is built around an entirely different ecosystem. Customers also behave really differently in different countries and across different channels. And this can be really challenging if you're trying to build up your own customer support team. It may be that your team here is great and you respond to customers really quickly. But once you add customers in a different time zone and in a different culture, you might need to change what kind of support you're offering customers based on that. And even customers in different channels can work differently. I know from companies that have used us and Amazon, they have to treat those customers really separately. Amazon has a really great return policy. If you buy something off Amazon, you can just send it back, and they pretty much have to accept it. But it means that if your product isn't working, like you're an early stage company, it's your first time in this market, if anything doesn't work, your customer is just going to ship it back. So you have to plan around how are you going to prepare to handle those returns, or how do you dissuade customers from making those returns. Versus on Indiegogo, we have customers who really expect early stage products. So if something's kind of wonky, or if it doesn't quite work yet, or they have to do some work on it, they're happy to do that. They aren't going to return the product, but they do want someone to talk to. So you have to be prepared to actually talk to them, be able to respond to them. And that's challenging as well. So make sure that when you're looking at launching, you're not just getting, how do I get my product into the country, but how do we support customers there once they're actually there. One other thing that we see is really challenging for teams is working across design sensibilities in different countries. And I'll actually give you a pretty straightforward example here. I mentioned Crazy Baby, the team who made those earbuds earlier. So these are two different campaigns that they ran. Their first one was, the campaign page was built by their team in China. And it has a very Chinese flavor to the design sensibility and how they're selling the product. They're really focused on the features of the product. How is it actually technically better than its competitors? They focus on how it works. You can see them going into some specs. Now, it was a really successful campaign. They raised almost $900,000 and the product was really popular. But for their second campaign, they actually worked with a US-based agency. And they built a much more American style of marketing. They told a story about how their product fits into a customer's life. They focused a lot more on narrative, on how it fits into someone's lifestyle. And that campaign raised almost $3 million. Now, they're different products, and I'm not saying that in every time that's the cause of everything. Obviously, different products have a different impact as well. But one thing that can be really challenging is if the culture you're marketing into likes different things than you, the designs that are actually the best might look bad to you. Like you might look at a design that works really well for Americans, and it might just look, you're like, this doesn't have enough specs. It doesn't talk enough about the features. It can feel bad, and you have to let something launch that might feel bad to you because it's what's best for the audience you're aiming for. And that's the challenge of marketing across cultures. And the final challenge, and I think that this is one of the biggest challenges for companies that are trying to launch globally, is access to customers. I think designing for specific customers is a really effective tool to making products that they're going to fall in love with. Your challenge here is that those customers, if you're aiming internationally, are just hard to access. How do you talk to people from a different culture and build something around those needs if they are not here? There's no clear way to overcome this challenge. Crowdfunding is a great way to talk to people early. You can sell a product and get early adopters from our audience, who's mostly in the US or other English-speaking countries. You can go and call up and try to just find people in those countries and talk to them. But this is something really important to think about, even when you're just at the design stage of the product. If you want to launch internationally, how do you find those customers, and how do you identify those needs? Now, I know I've talked about all the challenges of how hard this is, and I hope it's not too intimidating, because we know there is a really big market for this. In just the past year and a half, we've helped teams from Asia raise over $65 million launching internationally. Over $12 million campaigns, and hundreds of thousands of customers, and moving hundreds of thousands of units. So there is a really big market here. There are companies who are doing this, and they're doing it really successfully. So while I know I've talked a lot about the challenges and how hard it is and the amount of work that goes into doing this, hopefully I've also inspired you to think about what your company can do internationally and what opportunities there might be for your company abroad. So thank you so much, and if you have any other questions afterwards, please find me. Thank you.
And thank you, Ben, for joining us this morning. And the next highlight of the forum will be the panel discussion. The panel will address topics and issues that are key to successful innovations and startups, such as cross-border investment and collaboration, and how they pave the way for future innovation. The moderator of the panel discussion will be Josephine Chow, president of Epoch Foundation, and she will share the stage with two panelists. They are Han Jin, co-founder and CEO of Lucid, and Eric Wu, senior special assistant of chairman, Winstrong Corporation. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us put our hands together and welcome the moderator and the two panelists on stage. Once again, we would like to welcome the moderator, Josephine Chow, and the two panelists, Han Jin and Eric Wu. I will now turn the program over to Josephine.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to join with Eric and Han on stage to share the story about cooperation between startups and big, or I should say mature, corporation. Oops, I forgot to mention about successful. So I forgot to mention we are going to share successful story about big corporation and startup. But frankly, it's not a successful story. We are going to share it's not only romantic story between big corporation and the startup. We also would like to share some inconvenient truths as well. So before the sharing, I would like to introduce the panelists first. So Eric Wu, MC, just announced his title officially. We will call him Senior Special Assistant of Chairman. But his real role for Winstrong, he is a search engine. Search for potential startups. For working with Wistron. So if you start up your company or you intend to co-op with Wistron, don't forget, exchange business card with Eric later. And Han Jin. Han is of course, the co-founder and the CEO of Lucy VR. And back to 2015, Apple Foundation, we invite Han to participate in our program called Startup Global Program. And this program, we invited Han to Taiwan. That's back to 2 years ago. And then this year, Han, he was selected as Inc.'s 30 under 30 just a couple months ago. And 30 under 30, the brilliant young entrepreneurs. And Han Jin also run a very successful campaign on Indiegogo. And most important is, Han is the really, it's only a few startups really deliver their product to their bakers. So this is Han Jin, Lucy VR. So I would like to invite Han, to share your startup story first. Okay,
sure.
Please.
Yeah, so we started 2.5 years ago, and it was primarily my co-founder and I. We were only 2 people. He was working on remote-controlled robots, where he can control them through virtual reality. That means like you put a VR headset on, you become the robot. And he worked on that at Stanford in his PhD for many years. I'm a Berkeley Cal alumni. We don't work well together, but we got introduced. And we wanted to really work on something which can revolutionize how people see the world, how people capture the world. And so we developed the camera which we call LucidCam. And like Josephine already said, we launched an Indiegogo campaign at the beginning because we didn't know what is actually the process of doing a startup. And to be honest with all of you, there's no process. So we started off with Indiegogo campaign, raised a couple thousands of money, and then we had to figure out the next step. And as I said, building a startup is pretty much like jumping out of a plane, and you don't have a parachute. So you have components, you have to build it, and you have to figure out before you fall onto the ground. And this is exactly what we did, because after a crowdfunding campaign, after you get the money from the backers, what do you do next? You have to build the product. And so that was a big challenge for us. And we went with Garage Plus to come to Taiwan because we value a lot the Taiwanese ecosystem, the ODM culture, the design culture which this country really provides. And when we came here, we met Wistron during one of our sessions, and I started talking with Eric, and we were very passionate about how we can work together to bring this product to life. Now, 2 years later, we are actually shipping. We are selling the product. It's on the market. And we have lots of sales, lots of customers who are very passionate about the product and have been carrying it around. And so I wouldn't say a startup can be, or call it successful, but I would say like to this point, we have figured out how to build a parachute, and we are not, on the floor yet.
Okay, but I remember, back to 2 years ago, we arranged a lot of meeting, one-on-one meeting for you, and also invite different companies, but why Wistron? Why Wistron?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think there are a lot of great ODMs in here, like Quanta, Foxconn. They're all very great. I think with Wistron, we found specifically a common interest. And our common interest was really like the vision of virtual reality having an impact on the world and being able to scale a huge market in the future. And we found that Wistron was very, very flexible in terms of how we work together. That means like as a startup where we have, at the beginning we were 2 people, now we are around 6 people, which is still not much, and we have only 3 engineers. So imagine building a huge hardware startup where you build very complicated products, which doesn't just collect data, but also creates like 3D and very complicated software behind it, and you're building it with only 3 engineers. you need way more than that in order to scale it. So when I was making the calculation for myself, I was looking into, I need 2 mechanical engineers, I need 3 electrical engineers, I need a designer. And so building all this in the Silicon Valley where we are right now is really hard because, the salary is really high, the talent is very difficult to find. And Wistron was willing to say, like, let's work together on this and bring this product to mass production. And so Wistron gave us not just the team, where we had a team of, I think, around 30 to 40 people working with us together, but also Wistron supported us with investment, which was very important to keep the lights on at the company. And to look back from now to where we started, I think at that point when we had a working prototype where you start with a crowdfunding campaign, there is so much more to a startup, so much more to get to mass production than you believe. Most of the startups die between the crowdfunding campaign and the mass production and shipping to the customer. And I'm just too frank here, but I just want to be honest about that because a great crowdfunding campaign doesn't necessarily mean that you will be perfectly successful with it. And so going through that, I don't believe that we would have been able to do so without the help and support of Wistron.
Okay, thank you. So my question turned to Eric. Okay, as my understanding, Wistron is not only provide manufacturing support, also provide funding. I'm curious about why, because through our program we have so many international startups come to Taiwan and talk to Wistron, but why you select Lucy VR? Why?
Can I just say that no comments? This is a confidential. Actually, I want to say that it's not only Wistron. I think the most of Taiwan this ICT company actually they are doing the same similar things as us. Not only Wistron is I do believe like the Foxconn, Quanta, they are doing the same thing. So they participate in such kind of startup ecosystem, put the money, put the resource into. However, I don't want to say that a very special reason why we chose the Lucy, but I want to share my thought which kind of a startup we are looking for. The first of all, I think the team is very important. When I look at the him and his partner is the Adam. All of us know the stories, the Berkeley and alumni and Stanford alumni is not easy to work in together. However, when I met the two of them, actually they are look very we call the 和谐,
Harmony?
It's a harmony, yes. I think that can be the word. The second thing, the team actually is important. The second thing I think is more important is do you have a unique technology, particularly if you are the hardware if you are looking for the hardware entrepreneur. So the Lucy VR actually is not only the hardware device. They have in behind they have a very strong software capability. So when you see their product, see the videos they captures, it is a very impressive. Of course, in the some other reasons in there is this business really makes sense, right? So at least we are lucky. The most of startup company they die within 2 years. But in the past 2 years, we see the Lucicam growth and still in the right track. They get a very positive response from the market.
Okay, great. And then let's face the truth, okay? I really like to know what's the most difficult part between your cooperation, beyond your anticipation before the work together. What's the most difficult part from the startup or also from the big corporation? What's the most difficult part?
Sure, I think I can jump into this real quick. So we have, on the high level, we have very different objectives. For a big corporation to measure performance and to measure success, they are looking at KPIs where they are driving revenue, driving productivity, and driving efficiency in terms of time management. For a startup, because as a startup, especially in the seed stage, where you go into Series A and Series B, you are going into experimentation. So you are looking at your roadmap as a objective of market traction, and you are looking at market product fit. That's your main perfect objective to achieve, because what you want to do is you want to create a first version product where you find a fit between the market and yourself, and then you iterate on that product. And even GoPro needed 4 different iterations until it sold millions of products. So every startup goes through those kind of cycles. And for us to really focus on that experimentation, we have to be very flexible. That means like we change directions, we change specs, we change products. This drives the big guys crazy. Because for them it's about launching, especially like when you work with bigger companies like in the laptop space, you have to launch millions of units. So what you focus on is, okay, if those specs are defined, we're going to execute on that, and the next 9 to 6 months, we're going to launch this product based on those specs and those kind of components. And the team will march towards that, and nothing will be hindering them to perfectly deliver that. And so when we were working together, I think the change was really with what we learned a lot, and also what Wistron was learning from us is, they had to be flexible. We worked with the team every single day. We contacted them. We said, this is changing. They were not freaking out. They were making the changes. We were very glad we were supported in any way possible. And I think like it's not just that they were able to support us, but also the willingness to help and make those sacrifices from both sides. And that's what helped us really to bring the product to life and to mass production.
Okay, so
the most of the startup company, if they are working for the hardware, sometimes we always say the hardware is harder, so which because some of the entrepreneurs actually they have no experience for the hardware design. Not only the design, maybe they are not aware of the cost where will be. Such kind of you only count the material cost, but you forgot that you have a very huge investment for the tooling, for the other NRE costs as well. So when you see some product in the crowdfunding, in theirs, some of them the selling price is still able to make some money in theirs based on the material cost, but finally they cannot deliver, which because they forgot a bunch of part the others. Of course, for the big corporate, we also learn a lot from the startup, which because in the past, maybe for the past 10 years, 20 years, we are very familiar for the OEM, ODM business. So the customer give us very exactly and clear the spec. So we know we are easy to get the quotation, and we know all the supply chain. However, for such kind of new things, sometimes they are not using the Intel, they are not using AMD, they are not using Microsoft. They are using a total different things. So we also need to learn how to deal with such kind of different technology in behind. We are good for the manufacturing, for the notebook, for the mobile phone, for a lot of things. But maybe we are short of the experience for the optical device. So we also learn a lot from the startup. Not only the case from the Lucy, I think from the other cases as well.
But I want to add a little bit to it, because I think for us, or for both of us, it was a strong learning process, because as a startup you build prototypes, which means like 5, maybe 10. It's very different if you build 10 of them or thousands. So we had to learn so much about the difference between how to scale the assembly of building thousands of those units versus just one unit in our laboratory. And so those kind of learning experiences is where both partners have to work together being willing to have new experiences, new learning experiences, and then bring that also into the organization where they make their own changes, which means we learn to be better on time, better on schedule, driving better milestones, delivering better results. And I think on Wistron's side, what they did a great job with is, they became way more flexible. They were looking less on, we have to now produce thousands of those, but let's make thousands of them first well, and then we look into millions or bigger quantities of that.
So why Wistron, decide join to the startup ecosystem to support startups? Why? This is not, very
I think again,
profitable business.
I think that I do believe the Wistron is not the only case in Taiwan IC industries. Actually, it's a lot of the corporate they are doing the same thing. Some of them even more aggressively than us. But however, I think everybody knows in the Taiwan, particularly for the downstream manufacturing for the electronic device, all of us are facing on the challenge for the less profit margins. So. The other things is more important is the product life cycle actually getting shorter and shorter. If we back to the 20, 30 years ago, like desktop, we are using a desktop for many years, but now for the hand. Hand is no experience for the desktop. But in our age, I think we are using a desktop for 20 years. But for the notebook, if you're looking for the entire product cycle from the beginning to the become very broad world of competition, I think it become 10 years. Mobile phone getting shorter. We have a 2 generation mobile phone there, so 1 feature phone and 1 smartphone. I think each product 5 years. Possibly you are not know the pad, iPad, or the pad business. From the very beginning to the become totally embodied of the competition 3 years. So unless we are participate in such kind of startup business in the beginning and learn how or what will be in the futures, maybe we always late for the business development in the futures. So that's why we involve the startup ecosystem. Again, I will not say it's not only the Wistron doing the things like this. I think a lot of Taiwan ICT company, they are looking for the futures. So we are aggressively, and it's great to have opportunity to work with the startup ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. So, Ham, I know you with multi backgrounds, and you're from Silicon Valley, with some Chinese background and even Europe background. And why you choose come to Taiwan to join our program, and then stay here to start up your business? What's your perspective from Taiwan?
Sure. So if we had the opportunity to look internationally where we can work from, you have the opportunity to go to China, you can go to Europe, or you can stay in the United States. On the United States, like we said, right, especially for hardware, it's really hard because we have very high costs per headcount. And so driving those kind of costs is very difficult because you have low margins on hardware products. You have to produce lots of units of them, and you need lots of initial investments in order to scale it up. So going to China would be one opportunity where we looked at, okay, it's a drastic cost reduction in order to bring the product over there, having lower BOM costs, and then driving volume from there. But the problem is, I see, like especially the manufacturers in China as being helpful in execution, but with a brand new product or with a brand new market, you need more than just execution. You need more learning, and you need more experimentation. And so I was intrigued by the Taiwanese culture and the Taiwanese education over the last couple of years, where ODM was very strong, driving the country forward. And the ODM concept is very based on design, design thinking, out-of-the-box thinking, which really brought a very talented workforce into this country, but also like the ODM mindset. And so the ODM mindset helped us not just to execute and say like, okay, here is our design for manufacturing, take it and then execute on it, but really like think through, hey, Han, what if we do this or do that? And that was a great conversation which we had because, we are not, we are experts on what we do, but we want to have input. We want to have ODMs who come back and say like, hey, we have learned from experience, those kind of things are good in the market or for your product. You should consider. And then we had that conversation going on where we made the product together way better than it was before. And so that was a very, very strong, attractive indicator for us to come here. Then the second thing is, of course, the workforce. I think like Silicon Valley started because it has a great university, Stanford, which drove the workforce and the education. In Taiwan, I see the same. Like the Taiwanese universities are very strong in education, and so we have a lot of employees who are from Taiwan, and I have seen amazing performance and an amazing contribution from them in our team. And so for us, it was very important to have access to talents, access to engineers, but who are humble enough to accept and say like, let's work on this together, versus in the Valley we are facing more talents who are like, oh, I'm from Stanford. I'm going to do my own thing or something like this. But at the end of the day, a startup is more about working together as a team, as a family. And then the third part, of course, is the cost structure here in this country. We want to build our offices here. We want to expand from here. And it's way more cost efficient for us to drive that. And as a startup, you have to look at cost every single day.
Yeah, thank you. So that's the question. And I think this is the most important part, both of you. Would you please give some like advices to the startup, from the different point of view? What if they want to, cooperate with big corporation, or what if startup want to cooperate with, a mature company?
I met a friend yesterday in the Innovex in the hostelry. Actually, who is the first case we are studying, trying to cooperate with them. Unfortunately, a lot of reason behind theirs, we didn't put the resource in. However, I met a life friend, is Mark. I just encourage him to keep the mind also original. You want to try to be the entrepreneur. This is a very, you will see a lot of successful story or the good campaign like the Indiegogo. But however, if you want to go successful, you still need to know the way actually not so easy. Okay, I will not encourage you to say you don't want to be the entrepreneur. I still encourage you to have your own business. But you need to think about why you want to be the entrepreneur. This is the first thing I want to remind all the staff friends. The second thing is you must need to find a very good partners. Okay, you have to have a very good partner. You cannot work alone. In the light entire journey, you need to have a partner to together with you, and this partner they should be able to complementary with you. Okay, so suggest that you and I have a same background or the same the experience. Maybe you have a different experience there. The third thing is you need to know the successful never come from the overnight. Okay. Same as Han, I think that every time I met him in Taipei or in the Silicon Valley, he also keep his original the thought. Even if look a little bit older, the face get black. Okay. Anyway, I think this is important. Okay. Of course, when you think about the topic, you want to be an entrepreneur. First, the important thing is this really makes sense. Okay, it's a really makes sense business. You don't want to just have a crazy idea layers, but it's really difficult to be realized. It will be difficult to find the big corporate to work with you.
Okay, from my side, I think some advice on for the bigger corporates. I think for the bigger corporates, what's really important is to learn from failures, being willing to accept failure. I know, in a culture where I grew up in Asia as well as Europe, so for me, like, failure is not an option. but growing up in a culture like that and then being educated in the United States really taught me that, failure is the only way how you can learn and progress and make actually advancement in innovation in general. And so being able to really reserve a certain portion of your budget in order to support failure, to support driving around experimentation is very, very important. Especially like when I look into the United States, which is having total spending per year of 2 to 3% into startups, which is VC funding, right? And that converts into 30% of the GDP, which those startups really drive. That's very impressive, and they are leading innovation in that way as well. And I think like in other cultures, as a startup nation and as well the culture is more adapting, this is very, very important to learn from and also adapt in own countries. That means like being able to assess risk, but also taking risk. On the startup side, as I said before, jumping out of a plane, I still go back to that comparison because I don't believe that you will be ever ready. There's no perfect timing for starting a startup. There's no perfect training to be an entrepreneur. There's no perfect process where you go step by step how you get there. It's more about taking the step because you have a passion for something. And that's where I go back to Eric, where he said, you have to understand why you're doing it. Because if you don't, and you just want to do it for fun, it's not that fun, okay? So at some point it gets fun. But I mean, like, really having a passion and having a vision and understanding the why behind you are doing a startup is so important for every single step, because you will encounter so many challenges which you have to overcome. And those challenges will drive you endless nights where you think like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And so overcoming those challenges, you go back to your why, and you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And because you are passionate about it, you will be able to overcome it and find a solution anyway. And so for anybody of you who is willing or looking forward to do a startup, I would really advise to just take the jump and being willing to take the risk and to do it. Because without the action you take, at the end of the day, you are just prolonging, and prolonging it will not go to the perfect timing or whatever it is. But you can make your own destiny by taking this step and actually starting the startup.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to echo two panelists in a foundation's point of view. Our foundation is funded by Taiwanese-based international company. And these companies, their concern is about Taiwan's industry, what's our next wave or prosperity of our economy. So through the international programs such as the Startup Global Program, we invite international technology-based startup come to Taiwan for cooperation. Last year, we invited 31 startup companies from 9 countries, and over 1/3, almost half of them, they did partner with Taiwanese company, or they did receive funding from our investor. So I think Taiwan is a very good place for global startup community to come here to enjoy our business culture, and we also provide friendly infrastructure. Not mentioned to the engineers, the human capital here is very open-minded. So before end up this section, I would like to show you a 1-minute video clipping from our foundation. Thank you very much.
The
Discover your partners, investors, and markets within 10 days. Most entrepreneurial in Asia. Remarkable makers, designers, engineers, and bioresearchers. Key players in global supply chain. Smart money. Global business capabilities. Safest and affordable place to live. Outstanding healthcare system and medical technology. They partner with Taiwan. Join us to make a difference. Start up in Taiwan.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us have another warm round of applause for our moderator, Josephine Chow, as well as the two panelists, Han Jin and Eric Wu. 我们是不是再一次的以热烈的掌声来感谢我们的两位论坛的语坛人 Han Jin 跟 Eric Wu， 还有我们论坛的主持人 Josephine Chow。在场的各位贵宾、各位媒体朋友们，2017 CPX 创新创业论坛到此正式的圆满落幕了。With that, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude the 2017 CPX Forum on Innovations and Startups. May I also remind you that today marks the very last day of the iiiNNO Startup Show. So if you have not visited the show, so make sure that you swing by today. It's located in 2WTC Hall 3. So make sure you swing by the show if you haven't already done so. 在场的各位贵宾，在此提醒您，今天是 iiiNNO 展区最后一天的展出。今天是最后一天的展出，我们也请在场的所有贵宾能够把握机会前往参观 iiiNNO Show。展出地点位于世贸3馆。今天是最后一天的展出，我们邀请各位贵宾能够前往参展，与我们一起共襄盛举。今天的活动到此圆满落幕，敬祝各位贵宾参展愉快。